Hey, what's up everyone? Thanks so much for joining us today for our ON1 Photo RAW 2023 A to Z event. I'm Dylan Kotecki and I'm joined by Dan Harlacher.
Hi everyone.
And I'm incredibly excited to showcase you all of the new features inside of the brand new ON1 Photo RAW 2023 available now.
Thanks Dylan, I'm really honored to be here today and I'm super excited to show you guys all the cool new stuff that's in Photo RAW 2023. Now, if you guys have been paying attention to computing at all, you know that AI or machine learning is unlocking new doors for all sorts of software developers, and it's the same for us. We have some really cool new AI things to show you this year. And at the top of that list is what we call Super Select AI. It takes advantage of a new technology that allows us to basically segment a photo. It lets us take a photo, identify the different objects and regions within a photo, and then immediately add adjustments to them. It's a completely different way of interacting with your photos. It's no longer open a photo and then find a filter and then figure out how to use a brush to mask the thing off. It's literally click on the thing, add an adjustment. Let me show you how it works. It's crazy simple and it's totally going to change the way you work on your photos. Here's how it works. I'm open to Photo into Edit. Over on the left hand side, I'm going to grab the Super Select tool. It's a brand new tool right here. Then all I do is I simply mouse over my photo. You notice when I mouse over the photo that different regions or different objects will highlight red to tell me that there's something that I can pick. So you can see on a photo like this, I can select the sky, I can select the mountains, I can select the church, and I can select the foreground.
Wow.
All of those are different selectable regions, and I can simply click on them, and I could group multiple regions together if I wanted to, and then add an adjustment. So let's start off with the sky. I'm just going to click on the sky. You notice when it's selected, it turns blue to tell me that it's selected. And then I can add an adjustment. Now I can add an adjustment directly from the filter pane. I can add one from my presets. I can add one right up here at the top where it says apply adjustment. Or what I find the easiest thing to do is I just right click. We're all very used to doing that right click contextual menu. So watch, I'm just going to right click. I get a list of all of my local adjustment styles and all of my filters and all of the filter styles, including the styles that we ship with and any that you've created. It's a really quick way to add an adjustment. So let's say I just want to bring down the highlights in this guy. I'll go to the adjustments, I'll go to the highlights, and I'll pick the highlights minus. There we go. That added a new local adjustment. It turned down the highlights, and if we look at the mask right here, I'm gonna hit the O key so you can see it. There's the mask it generated automatically for that sky region. That's as easy as it gets. I didn't have to use any brushing, I didn't have to add a local adjustment. Very, very fast. So let me show you how I would work on this photo a couple more times. I'm going to go down, and this time I'm going to click. This time I'm going to click on the foreground. Maybe I want to add a glow to the foreground. I'll right click. I'll go into my bottom section. These are all of my filters from effects. I'll go to the glows. And you notice as I mouse over these, I can actually see the effect taking place on my photo with the actual finished mask. It's really, really fast. So I can just mouse over those until I find the look that I'm going for. I always like to charge more monies, so let's go to the charge more money strong.
Hey, that one looks really good.
Yeah, there we go. That added that. I'll turn it on and off so you can see it. Before, after, just on that region. Let's add a little dynamic contrast to the church. Right, select it, right click, dynamic contrast. And I'll just grab the natural option there. Just to add a little punch, a little bit of texture to it. So there we go. Let me turn that on and off so you can see. There's before, and there's after. And literally all I did is I just clicked on a couple different regions and added a setting to it. It's really, really fast, very easy way to work on your photos.
Literally click and create.
Literally click and create.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Let me show you on another photo. What I really want to highlight is all the different things that it can see for you automatically. So I'm going to grab a totally different photo here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to grab this one in Venice.
I was just there, Dan.
Really? You lucky devil.
I know.
I'm going to grab the Super Select tool and I'm just going to mouse over the photo. So watch. It can see the sky, it can see the buildings, and it groups all the buildings together. It can see the water, groups the water together. So similar things it's going to group together automatically. So at the very deep, deep level, water could be an ocean, could be a sea, could be a river, could be a lake. Doesn't matter, we group all the different kinds of water together. But other things you might want to interact with individually, like people or animals or food objects, things like that within the scene. So you notice as I mouse over the boats, each individual boat is a separate selection. So I could add something different to each boat, or even for the people on the left, you can see how different regions highlight for different people. It's really, really flexible where you add things. So a photo like this, maybe I want to darken my sky. I'll select it. Let's go down here and I'm going to grab my midtones darker, darken up my sky. Let's add a little dynamic contrast to the buildings. and maybe add a little blue to that water. I'll use a photo filter for that. There we go.
Just some clicks.
Yeah,
That's
3
awesome.
clicks, no brushing, no masking. It's all in for you automatically.
That is incredible.
There's before, there's after. Let me do that again. There's before, and there's after.
Nice.
It's crazy simple. And you notice I didn't have to go through all the pain of layers and filters and masking. Yes, it's using those technologies under the hood, and the masks that it's generating are normal masks, just like you guys are used to working with, and all of the other masking tools you can use hand in hand with these. So if it missed a little area, I can use my refine brush or my perfect brush, and I can always go in and retouch those if I want to. It's crazy easy.
So awesome.
Crazy all the different regions it can see too. So far we've looked at a couple of landscapes, but it can also see people, it can see animals, it can see food objects. It knows the difference between natural ground like sand and gravel and dirt versus man-made ground like gravel and roads and things like that. It can see cars, it can see airplanes. All of those are individual separate pieces that you can detect and edit very quickly. All right. That's just the tip of the iceberg of all the cool no masking stuff that we're going to show you. This same technology is used in multiple places. I'm excited to show you the next one, which is Mask AI. Now, with Mask AI, you can actually pick regions based on their name. So rather than using that tool, the Super Select AI tool, to click on a region, you can actually just pick a named region you want. You can pick multiple named regions. And you can do this in a few different places. You do this within the masking section of each filter. When you add a filter, when you add a local adjustment. So you can use this when you add a local adjustment, you can use it when you add a filter, or on a filter that already exists, and even on layers. So if you're combining different layers together, you can use Mask AI to do that. Let me show you a quick way that you would use this. So here I've got a photo where the subject, the couple in the foreground, is a little underexposed and the background is obviously a little bright. If I had a flash or reflector, I would have used it when I took this shot to lighten up the foreground. It's called key shifting. I want to shift the key in the photo. We're going to basically reverse this really quickly and really easily. So watch. I'm just going to go to Effects. I'm going to click the Add Filter button. There's that Add Filter dialog that you guys are used to seeing. You'll notice there's a new section over here on the left-hand side. It calls out all the different regions that we can detect in the photo automatically. So you can see you can find sky and water and transportation. I'm just going to go to people. It picked the people for me automatically. I'll add a tone enhancer to that section. And then I'll simply just bring up my shadow slider a little bit. And that's like, voila, instant fill lights. Like I put a reflector in there, right?
That's
pretty simple. Now I want to do the same thing, but I want to do the opposite. I want to go to the background and I want to flip it around. So watch. I'll just add another filter here. This time I'll pick people again, but I'm going to add that tone enhancer. And up here, when I click on my mask icon, you notice there's a new control in here called Mask AI. You see it's already picked the people. I want to flip it around. Rather than painting in, I want to paint out. So I'm just going to select paint out. Now it's going to put that adjustment on the background instead of on the people. So now I'll go down here. I'm just going to grab my exposure slider and I'll drag it down a little bit.
Nice.
Look at that.
Perfect.
See how easy that is? Let me turn it on and off so you guys can see. There's before and there's after. And how much brushing did I do?
None.
0. I didn't do a bit of brushing at all. And these masks are really, really good. So there you go. That's one of the great ways to use Mask AI. Now, I know a lot of you guys are smart out there and you're thinking, well, gosh, if that Mask AI stuff is like in a pane, does that get saved into the settings? Well, of course it gets saved into the settings. And if you take that a step farther, that means you can create presets that target specific regions. With AI adaptive presets, you can actually target specific named regions. So people, backgrounds, objects, you name it, you can build those in. So I can make a preset that targets people and makes people brighter and backgrounds darker, or takes mountains and makes mountains sharper, or takes a sky and replaces a sky. You name it, it's crazy what you can do. And we've built a whole raft of presets to get you started. And if you happen to have ordered during the pre-release time period, there's a bunch of bonus adaptive presets that you'll get as well today. And I'm going to show you those here. Now I'm going to show you on a few different photos just so you can kind of get the gist of what you can do with these. I'm going to start off with a landscape photo. I'm going to open up my preset drawer on the left and you notice there's a top level category called AI adaptive presets. That's where we put all of these ones that automatically target different color and tonal areas. And when I go into that, you'll see subcategories for different subject types, things that I'd want to do. This happens to be a landscape photo. So if I go into the landscape category here, you'll see a range of different AI adaptive presets. There's one that I like right here called the Fall Enhancer Glow. Now you notice I haven't picked it, right?
No, you just hovered over it.
All I did is hover over it. That's a really cool new change. And it works not just for AI adaptive presets, but all presets. You can actually just simply mouse over it, linger your mouse for a second, and you can see the preset on your photo. Make shopping for presets way faster.
That is amazing. That's one of my favorite features.
It really is.
You messaged me that as soon as you put it in.
Exactly. This is actually an idea from Dylan.
Yeah.
So see, your feedback gets in there. So watch, as I mouse over these, it's just going to change based on what is in that preset. So I'm going to go back to that Fall Enhancer Glow, and I'm going to select it. And when I click on that, you'll notice I'll get the fade slider, so I can still control how strong that is overall. And if we go look at what this did, let's go into our effects stack, you'll see it added 3 different filters to it, and they're all targeted on things in the foreground. So if I take a look at Mask AI, it's going to add to flora and to natural ground for me automatically. That's how it did it, but it didn't add it to anything else. You notice the sky, the background, doesn't get any of those adjustments added. It also works with animals and birds and wildlife. So there's a bird and wildlife category. So if I go in here, I'll see a range of different presets that I can add. Here's one I like called Healthy Glow. And you notice what it's going to do is it's going to add a healthy glow to just the bear. And it finds the bear. Watch this. Look at the mask that it generated automatically.
Wow.
It found that bear, no brushing. It's even got all those tiny little hairs on it. It's refined it. It's a really high quality mask right out of the gate. I didn't have to do anything for it. Let me turn that on and off so you can see. There's before and after. Wow. So it added a little detail, added a little rich glow to the bear, so that bear really pops out of the scene. And of course, these are just normal filters in your stack, so you can continue to add and combine and mask and do whatever you want on top of it. They're a great starting point for different things you'd like to do.
So cool.
Let me show you another one with people. It does a great job of detecting and building good masks for people in a scene as well, especially if they're shot on a consistent background. So if you're a studio photographer, or even if you shoot outside on a plain wall, you don't have a whole range of different backgrounds that you can add to your photo easily. One of the bonus sets of categories we supply are the backdrops. And what these do is it uses Mask AI plus the texture filter to create cool new backgrounds to enhance your photo. So watch, I'm just going to mouse over these, and you'll kind of see what they do. I can add kind of a cool little bokeh background behind my subject, or maybe I want to look like she's shot in front of a concrete wall, or maybe fire. Look at that. We can even put her behind fire. Nice. And it looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? Yeah. So these are really, really handy. And the other cool thing is, of course, this is just using the texture filter, so there's tons more textures you can use. You can go out and shoot your own textures, put your own in there. It's a great way to take a boring background and kind of kick it up a notch. I think I'm gonna have to pay somebody for that. Yeah, but it's a great way to really make your photo look a lot better. And that's just really the tip of the iceberg of the cool stuff that you can do with Mask AI and of the AI adaptive presets that we include. We're also really excited because we know that all of our ON1 gurus are going to be excited to go out and create lots of cool new things with Mask AI and AI adaptive presets. So keep your eye out. Very soon there's going to be a whole new community of people creating cool presets for you. All right, let's move on. I'm going to show you yet another cool masking thing that you can do, and that is the ability to use this same semantic masking technology on a layer by layer basis. So here's what I want to do. I want to take this waterfall scene right here, and I want to put this bride and groom like they're in the scene. Now that's a pretty hard thing to do. You got to be able to cut them out and scale them, make it look realistic, and make them match up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to select both of these, and I'm going to click on the layers button. That's going to combine those two into one layered file if you guys haven't seen that before. So there we go. We can see there's two different layers. Now, obviously, the bride and groom are way bigger than the background layer. So the first thing I need to do is kind of scooch them down a little bit. So I'm going to grab my transform tool here, and I'm just going to scoot them down to being a slightly more realistic size within my photo, and kind of put them where I want them. I kind of want them standing over here on this rock. Yeah, about there looks pretty good. Now, let's remove that background. So I'm going to go down to my masking tools. And in my masking tools, there's the regular masking brush and the bug and all those other tools, but there's also the Quick Mask AI tool, which has been completely rebuilt for Photo RAW 2023. This works just like Super Select AI does. I just click on the areas that I want, and I can either remove or preserve those. So I'm going to grab this tool. I'm just going to click on the people. So I turn them on, so each one is individually selectable because they're two separate people. I'm going to select those guys. I've got my mode set to paint in. I'll hit done. Bada bing, look at that. I completely removed that background and I've stuck them into that scene. Now there's a little bit of work to really make this look natural and compelling. So the first thing I want to do is I want to convert it to a black and white. I really want this to be a black and white photo. So I'm going to go to my background layer here and we'll go into effects and I'm going to add a black and white filter. We're going to add it to the whole photo. And I'm going to use the infrared filter. This is one of the really cool things about this is now that they're on separate layers, I can use different black and white conversions for each. I wouldn't want to use black and white on them as their skin would go white. So here I have more control. So there we go. Black and white looks pretty good. I wonder what else I could do in here.
I think you should maybe add in a lens blur back there just to give it a little bit more
Oh, that's a
focus.
good idea. That'll kind of make them pop off a little bit more. That's a good idea.
A bit more consistent, I think.
Yeah. All right. So let's add a filter. I'm going to go to lens blur here. Oh, that's pretty strong. I'm going to add a tilt shift look. And I'll use my masking bug here. That's what we call this little gradient tool to decide where I want to put it. I want a little out of focus in the foreground. I want a little out of focus in the background. And we'll turn that amount down to something more believable, somewhere around 4 or 5. There we go. Nice. That looks pretty good. Now let's take that bride and groom and make them black and white too. So I'll select them. I'll make them black and white. I'm going to use a different conversion. I'm going to use green because green looks great for skin. There we go. That's looking pretty good. The only thing I need to do is maybe do a little bit of masking touch up here. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Keep in mind this is already zoomed into 100. It missed a little spot there in her arm. So I'm just going to grab the regular old masking brush to clean this up. Making sure the perfect brush option is on. And then I can just brush in that little pocket right there to clean that out. Maybe we'll use our chisel tool just a little to clean up some of those edges. They were kind of backlit in the original where they're not backlit in this one, so we want to make sure that they blend in to that background just a little bit better. And you know, while I'm here, let's bring back just a little bit of his leg that kind of got knocked out a little too much.
Nice.
There we go. Let's go back to a fit so you guys can see that.
Wow.
There we go. That was pretty crazy. Now, think of how long that would have taken to have created in the old days, having to try to go around and mask them out the old-fashioned way. That would have taken forever.
Using a pen tool or
Using
something.
a pen tool or things like that. Here is just click on a person, knock everything else out. Really, really fast. Great way to speed up your composite work. Now, we've talked a ton about all the cool masking technologies in Photo RAW 2023. Let's kind of turn the tides here and let's talk about something else. Let's talk about deblurring. Deblurring is really the technology of taking a photo that's a little out of focus and returning it to focus. It's not the same thing as sharpening. Sharpening is more about enhancing edges. This is actually an AI network that can tell how the photo became out of focus and reverse that blur that created it. It's pretty crazy. And we've built this into no noise. Everybody loves no noise. We know it's the best tool out there for noise reduction. But tack sharp, doing deblurring, no noise, noise reduction, really work the best when you do them together, hand in hand. So that's why we built it in as a feature right inside of no noise. Let me show you how you're going to use it. All right, I'm going to start off with this photo. And let me zoom in here to 100% so you guys can take a look at it. And we look and it's like, oh no, it's a little out of focus. This happens to us all the time, either through a little bit of camera shake or subject motion. This will happen to.
Day or something.
That's what happened here. You know, this is, even though this was on a tripod, it was like 60-mile-an-hour winds on top of this butte, and it just buffeted the tripod enough to ruin the shot. In the old days, I just throw it out. There's not much you can do about it, right? Or the other one that happens a lot with portraits is you just misfocus a little bit. You know, their ear is in focus or their nose is in focus, but not the eye. So this allows you to kind of bring that back. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to go into develop. I'm going to go down to the noise and sharpening pane. We'll open this up. And you notice there's some new tabs in here. It used to just be classic and no noise. Well, now there's classic, no noise for noise reduction, tack sharp for deblurring, and there's a both option, which actually gives you a combination of no noise and tack sharp together. So if you have a photo that is both blurry and noisy, you can fix it. It's great for wildlife photos. For this one, it's shot at a pretty low ISO. I don't have to deal with noise a whole lot, so I'm going to go straight to tack sharp.
Wow.
And there you go. You can see it has automatically reversed that blur. It's also added a little bit of micro sharpening, which might be a little too much for this particular photo. So I'm going to turn that micro sharpening down. And you can see there's an amount slider where I can control the amount of that deblurring that is added. So I can kind of adjust it to taste. For me, somewhere around 80 or so is going to look pretty good on this photo. Let's look at the before and the after. There's before. And there's after. That little bit of jump you see is actually the lens correction being applied as well. So you'll see it without lens correction and with lens correction. But you can see very out of focus to the point where I can see all those little individual
details.
branches in the trees again. So
That is awesome.
very, very handy. And this works just like no noise. It kind of works at the very bottom raw data on your photo. And that's where you're going to adjust it. Now let's show you how you would actually use both of them together, both no noise and tack sharp together. All right, so we're going to take this great wildlife photo. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple basic adjustments to it. It's just a little hot. So I'm just going to bring this guy down exposure-wise just a little bit. And let's bring in just a little bit of some real blacks in there. Maybe open up those mid-tones just a little bit. There we go. So now it's just a more pleasing rendition of the photo. We'll go down to that noise and sharpening pane. And because this photo is both noisy, if you look at the background, there's lots of noise in that green background, but it's also a little out of focus. It tended to focus right on the tip of the beak, which causes the eyes to not carry quite as much. We need to do both. So when you want to use both, use the both option. Kind of makes sense, right? So I'm going to click on both. And you'll see at the top, it has noise reduction. At the bottom, it has the sharpening. And right there, just using the default settings, you can see how that background now super duper clean. No noise at all. No noise. Exactly. But look at all those tiny little, I think they're called pin feathers. I'm sure a bird person is going to correct me on that. But all those tiny little feathers, look how razor sharp they are now. That is crazy. You know, let's look at the before and the after. So there's before and there's after. Yeah. So great way to save those photos. The photos that you used to have to throw away, you can now use. And here's an insider tip. Just like no noise, you can use this on a layer by layer basis. So I could take that photo, I can make multiple layers, and I could apply no noise and tack sharp in different ways on different photos and blend them together. So awesome. Very powerful way to use localized adjustments in there.
That's awesome. Keep the background blurry and keep the
exactly
sharp.
Exactly. All right, so that is tack sharp. Now let's talk about keyword AI. None of us like to keyword. Well, very few of us like to keyword, I should say. Yeah, some people probably love keywording, but it's something that I've never been a big fan of. But you always want to be able to find your photos, right?
Totally.
So one of the cool things that kind of came out of building Super Select AI and Quick Mask and Mask AI is that we can actually tell what's in a photo, right? We can know that, oh, that's a person, that's a dog. Well, we took that a step further, and now we've built what are called AI keywords. We'll scan your photos and we will find over 800 different things in your photos and add those as keywords. Now, we're not putting them in the full-fledged keyword section. It's in its own section, but they're still searchable just like a regular keyword. Let me show you where they live. So back here in Browse, if you look over here, right below my regular keywords is the AI keyword section. And you'll see the things that it finds automatically. So it goes beyond just object detection and region detection. It can also tell if a photo is underexposed or overexposed, if it's vivid color, muted color, monochromatic, high key, low key. If it has GPS information in it, it can tell where it was shot, the city, state, the country, the region, sometimes even regions of interest, like a certain place. You can pick that stuff up automatically. If there's people in the photo, it can identify how many people there are, if they're boys, if they're girls, what their age ranges are. It's crazy. And again, that's all searchable. So if I flip through some of these photos and you look at the AI keyword section, you can see some of those things. So here's this photo that I shot in Washington, Eastern Washington. So it knows it was shot in Colfax, Washington, which is in Whitman County in the United States. It knows that it's a natural environment. It's kind of low contrast. It knows that it's a landscape, and it knows that green is the predominant color. It picks all that stuff up automatically for me. Now let's go to a different photo. Let's go to one with some people in it. So if I go to people, it knows that there's two faces, that they're adults. It can pick up that blue is a dominant color from his shirt. It even picks up different parts of their bodies. It knows that it can see eyes and nose and ears and lips and things like that. All of that becomes searchable. And as I flip through these, you can kind of see all the different range of keywords that it will grab for me automatically. Now, if any of those keywords are interesting to me and I want to save them into my normal keywords for my photo, I simply drag and drop it up into the keyword section. Or I can hit this Add All button right there. It'll take all of those and add those to my keywords too. There's a lot of control over how this works. If we look in our preferences, if we go to the Keyword AI tab, we can control what it actually looks for. So we can have it look up information based on your GPS location. It can look up histogram properties. So that's things like if it's underexposed or overexposed. It can look at photographic properties, like was it a wide angle lens or a telephoto lens or a macro lens. It can find faces. Again, it can find objects. It'll also look at the folder names and automatically pick up keywords from the folder name. So if you organize by subject matter or location like I do, those all become searchable terms as well. Now, any photo that you put in a catalog folder, this is going to happen automatically unless you turn it off up here. But you can also do do it manually on any photos that you want simply by pressing the scan button. And even with a selection of photos, you could go to a new folder, select every photo in the folder, hit the scan button, and in the background it'll go off and do all that scanning work. This is all done locally on your machine. Your photos are not sent to the internet to have this work done. It's all done locally. The only thing that actually goes to the internet is just your GPS coordinates so that we can look up where it was photographed. That's the only thing that requires an internet connection. Your photo never leaves your computer. Next up is content-aware crop. So this is a really handy tool that allows you to essentially recompose or reconfigure your photo to different dimensions or different aspect ratios. I'll show you a couple different ways that I use it. Now, everybody knows that most of your digital cameras shoot in kind of a 2:3 aspect ratio, or like a 5:7 aspect ratio if you think about it. And most of us are taught to fill the frame. You know, you want to make sure you get as much of the photo in the frame as you want. That's great until you try to go make a print, right? So let's say I want to make an 8:10 print of this. If I grab my crop tool and I switch to the 8:10 preset, oh no, look what happens. I'm going to end up chopping off her legs. And so if I move it down and I try to get her legs, I'm going to chop off her head, right? Well, what am I going to do? Well, what I can do now is enable content aware crop. It's a little checkbox up here in the crop tool options bar. Now I can pull the crop outside of the photo. So watch, I'm just gonna pull these handles out a little bit, just like this, and I'll adjust it until I get just the composition that I want. Maybe a little smaller, something like that. I hit the apply button. It's going to extend my canvas. It's going to change the canvas size, and it's going to fill in those edges with realistic photo detail with a new content-aware inpainting algorithm that we've developed. It's much faster and much more accurate than the old perfect eraser. I'm going to show you on another photo here. So here's another example. Shot really, really too tight, but the problem was the camera was tilted a little bit, so I've got kind of this distortion to it that I don't like. Well, if I wanted to go in and fix that distortion, let's say I go down to my transform pane and I turn that on and I grab my vertical slider and I try to adjust that back, you notice it creates these little black wings and I don't have a way to really fill those in. Well, watch, now you can using content-aware crop. I'm just gonna go back, I'll grab my content-aware crop tool, I'm gonna set it back to the full canvas size. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you guys can see as I stretch this out. I'm going to stretch that canvas out. Now there's some black tape on the corners of this photo that we kind of used as markers to know what the edges of the frame were. So that's going to cause a couple odd things to happen at the edges. Don't worry, we've got great content-aware fill tools to finish that up. So we'll stretch out the edge of our photo. There we go. Now I'm going to grab my retouch tools and I'm going to grab the perfect eraser. That same new algorithm that we use for content-aware crop is also the one that we now use for the perfect eraser. It's faster on modern computers and it's also going to do a better, more realistic job. So I'm just going to paint over some of these little tape blobbies that we don't like in here. Grab these ones over here. And finally this one down here at the bottom.
Nice.
There you go. Look, that's really nice, realistic table detail all the way around. So I was able to extend that canvas out. Imagine if you're photographing in a studio and you don't have enough background to quite fit your scene, this lets you stretch out your background behind your subject as well. Now, if I go back to that transform pane and use that vertical slider, I can correct my perspective here a bit and then use my scale slider and chop off that additional area. So now I've got the photo I wanted, perspective corrected without losing anything. It's also great if your photo wasn't shot level. You know, I have a hard time getting a photo that's not a little crooked.
Yeah.
So when you level a crooked photo with the crop tool, you end up making these really long triangles that get cropped off. Well, using content-aware fill, you can maintain everything in your photo when you're leveling it too. So really, really handy. All right, next up, let's talk about the improvements to SkySwap AI. All right, next up are improvements to SkySwap AI. Everybody loves SkySwap and we came out with it last year and we continue to make improvements based on feedback and our own experiences. So we've got several new things. First off, the overall mask quality has improved along with the cool stuff that we've built for Mask AI. That also makes the Sky Masks better. We've introduced a couple new controls that I'll show you, but the biggest thing of all is we've added 125 brand new skies from Occudrone. And these things are crazy. These are the best skies I have ever seen, hands down.
They are amazing.
And they run the gamut. You've got beautiful blue skies and fluffy clouds, and then you've got these gorgeous sunsets and crazy storms. You know, I live in Oregon. I never see skies like this. I would love to have that. And having this as a library that I can use with my photos really kicks them up a notch.
They work great on
I'm going to have to pay again, aren't I?
Yeah.
Let me show you how you can use these guys to their greatest advantage. So here's a photo that we're going to start with. Great shot. I love it. Beautiful trees, the reflection. The only thing is down is the sky's a little plain. It's kind of that boring sky. So I went in, I used Sky Swap. Let me just turn the preview back on so you can see. And I picked one of those AccuDrone skies for it. Now you notice how it's got a great reflection down here in the water. Let me turn that on and off. See, there's that reflection. And I can shift it around to make sure I get the best, most interesting looking reflection out of my photo. And if we look at the mask quality, it's kept all those tiny little branches in that tree. And this is just one of those skies. Now the cool thing is there's tons of great skies. So I could use several different skies on this photo. And kind of the tip when you're looking for skies is you want to make sure you get one that's kind of around the same time of day. You can't have a sunset in the foreground and then pick a middle of the day shot for the sky. It wouldn't look realistic. And they kind of need to be the same color, the same dominant colors and tones within the photo too. So, you know, I couldn't use a bright fluffy sky with this one. It wouldn't look real, but there's a bunch of other great ones in here. So like, here's another one that I think looks really good. Oh, see, wow. Look at that. And again, still maintains all the detail in those leaves, but you know, I think this one is my favorite. Look at this one.
Oh,
wow, isn't that crazy? Look how beautiful that is. And it really takes that photo from right there, the original, without an interesting sky, to a much more interesting, more compelling sky. Now we've done a couple other improvements here. Let me show you a couple of them real fast. So here's another example of something that we've improved based on your guys' feedback. When we built SkySwap AI, we kind of assumed that the horizon was going to be level in your photos, but that's not always the case. Because some people will take, especially like a fashion photo at a bit of a Dutch angle. Well, when you do that, you want the sky to rotate with it too. It wouldn't look realistic. Or even if you just take your photo that's not level, you want to be able to adjust it to match that. So here I've just put in another one of those great AccuDrone skies into this photo. And now there's a level slider right here where I can adjust the rotation or the leveling of that sky so that I can get the clouds to actually match the horizon line the way they need to go. Here's another example of something we've added. We've learned that when you want to replace something that's semi-transparent, like trees or hair, and you're changing the color of the background, or especially the intensity, the brightness of the background, it's more than just masking. You actually have to change the color of that thing in the foreground to make it blend in realistically. I'll show you. I want to go from this blue background to a completely opposite color, to an orange background. Now, if I did that here in SkySwap, you can see I can keep all those great branches, but that is because of these new controls down here in foreground lighting. There's now a foreground and an edges slider. I'm going to turn that off so you can see. That's what it would look like without those controls. You can see, even though the mask is really good, those branches are semi-transparent from that bright sun that was behind in the original and the blue sky that was in the original. So now, using the edges and the foreground slider, I'm going to turn these off so you can see them. This allows me to burn down just the edges. That's perfect for those little thin branches. And also the foreground a little bit with that foreground slider to make it look more realistic. So I made this great kind of spooky photo out of this original photo. Wow. Just like that. So SkySwap just keeps getting better, and we think you guys are going to love the improvements that we've made in it. Now, a couple more things to show you. Now, there's a couple other cool things that I want to talk about, but they're just not very exciting to show you. So one is we've improved color fringe removal, which is really important, especially for raw photos shot on the smaller sensor cameras with the newer lenses. They get a lot of crazy color aberrations around the edges. So we've improved the range that we can reduce that, and it's all done automatically for you now. We've also added in-app notifications. So within the Learning Hub, you'll actually get your account level notifications in there. So if you're a Plus member, you'll see notifications of all the new videos and all the new content that's available for you right inside the app when you launch it. I think that's it, really. I can do this one. And plus, like every year, we've also made some improvements into support for cameras. So we've added support for a handful of new cameras in new formats dealing with the different compression types. We've also added lens profiles for a bunch of new lenses, and we've improved our tethering support for some of the latest cameras as well. So lots of cool stuff coming to you guys in ON1 Photo RAW 2023. We're really excited about it. We're happy you guys spent an hour with us here learning about all the new stuff in ON1 Photo RAW 2023 A to Z.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day, and remember that ON1 Photo RAW 2023 is available now. What gears today?